Hey Skyline Nation, welcome to the Skycast. I'm your host, VP of Sales here at Skyline, Freddie Katoto. I have a huge announcement. We have Bedros Keuilian on the show today. He owns 7 businesses, one of them being the Empire Show, which is amazing. We just had Ed on the show. Crazy content. Also one being Fit Body Boot Camp, which he owns. How many locations now?
Almost 800 locations.
800 locations, and he obviously has been able to 10x his business. And not only that though, but he's also a coach, a mentor to a lot of other guys. So congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, man.
Happy to have you on the show today. So
thank you, Freddie.
We actually, obviously here at the Skycast, we have a lot of content when it comes to door to door, but also it comes to mindset. I mean, a lot of the times, right, any business, any sales business, it all comes back to the mindset.
Yep.
How important do you think, obviously, is mindset in any business? Use some of your experiences as well, just to kind of understand, how you're able to go from an immigrant to be able to become a success here in the United States. How important was the mindset of that?
Mindset is everything, and I'll tell you this: mindset is a byproduct of self-image and self-esteem. And people will tell me, why is mindset everything? And it's simple. We were just talking about Navy SEALs before the camera started to roll. So everyone's probably heard this story, but let me tell you the background of it. There's a guy named Marcus Luttrell. He's a Navy SEAL. And in 2005, there was an operation called Red Wing. And Red Wing was Marcus Luttrell and 3 other Navy SEALs were supposed to go into the mountains of Afghanistan and just do intelligence gathering, reconnaissance. They're on top of this high mountain, and they've got their binoculars and they've got their weapons, obviously, but they don't plan on using their weapons. They're just taking notes, and they're going to go back because they, snuck into the enemy's territory. They're going to go back and tell their command what's going on in this village and what the bad guys are doing, and then they're going to come probably with helicopter gunships and destroy them. Well, as it so turns out, as they're behind their binoculars thinking they're well hidden, a herd of goats come up and jump around them. And before you know it, there's 2 goat herders. They don't know what to do, so they go, well, these goat herders are not the enemy. If we tie them up and leave, they're going to starve to death, dehydrate. Let's let them go, right? Because we're Americans. We're not going to just kill people if they're not combative enemies. So they let them go, and of course these goat herders go and tell the bad guys. There's a lesson about mindset here. What happens next in the hour is over 75 enemy fighters have now got them surrounded.
Wow.
4 Navy SEALs, 75 enemy fighters. These Navy SEALs are trying to fight their way through. And if this sounds familiar, it's because a book was written on it called Lone Survivor, which later became a movie with Mark Wahlberg called Lone Survivor. And 3 of the 4 Navy SEALs died. Marcus Luttrell was the only one that lived, and he lived because of the mindset training that the Navy SEALs put in him, which was, you are never out of the fight. And that's a mindset training. You are never out of the fight. And so earlier, as we were talking to Edwin, and he talked about, he knew what he wanted out of life. He knew he wanted to buy his mom a house.
Right.
And so he would go knocking on doors until he got that last and final sale for the day at 10:45 p.m. because his mindset was, I'm going to get the outcome. The outcome was that I'm going to buy my mom a house. Everyone else quit knocking on doors at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Marcus Luttrell, with his hip blown off, his tongue bitten off, literally almost naked because his clothes were just burnt off his body. He's falling off cliffs, being shot at. He literally would get a rock and draw a line in front of him in the dirt and just crawl. And he goes, if I can just crawl to that line, then I'm going to draw another line and crawl. That's a warrior's mindset. As a sales rep, as an entrepreneur, as a warrior, you're all of that, right? And so mindset is everything. The problem is most people don't have a big enough, strong enough self-image and self-esteem to develop a warrior's mindset. So what is self-image? Self-image is how you think other people see you. Self-esteem is how you see yourself. So someone who's got high self-esteem sees themselves as, you know what, I'm worthy of a good conversation, I'm worthy of making good money, I'm worthy of people giving me their time, I'm worthy of looking fit and having a nice house and having great economy, great marriage, etc. Someone with low self-esteem doesn't feel that they're worthy of all that stuff, and therefore they don't have the mindset to go out and dominate even in the face of adversity. Someone with low self-image thinks that, well, he hates me, she thinks I'm dumb, and when in reality, maybe they don't. They may not think you're the smartest person, but they certainly don't hate you and think you're dumb. It's just that's your self-image. That's what you're transferring out to them. And so if you can boost your self-esteem and self-image, how you see yourself and how you think people view you, you will automatically build your mindset, which will give you that warrior mindset to go out and dominate your goals, even in the face of 10:45 at night, and I still have to make a sale.
Yeah. And how important was that for you? I mean, obviously, you have learned this from experience, right?
Yeah.
When did you learn that? I mean, that's important for everyone to understand, because not everyone is born with that mentality, right?
Right.
So what led to that in your life, to understanding how to understand that?
That's a great question, Freddie. What led me to that is one simple thing. My dad needed to buy lice treatment for me because I had lice when I was a kid. Very much like Edwin, I'm a foreigner to this country. I came from a communist country, from Soviet Union. And so I was 6 years old in 1980 when we came here. By 1981, we're living in all these different shitty apartments throughout Santa Ana and Anaheim, California. And when you're living in crappy apartments, especially Section 8 housing where the government's assisting you, they're not always the cleanest. You know, and Edwin and I were talking about how sometimes you're woken up by cockroaches.
Right.
And other times you're woken up by scratching your head because you got lice. Well, my mom and dad needed to buy lice treatment. We didn't have much money. They're working many side jobs, making minimum wage. And so where they didn't have the resource of money, they got resourceful. And that was the first time I learned about being resourceful, the mindset of being resourceful. And again, going back to Marcus Luttrell, the Navy SEAL, he was resourceful. He goes, look, I may not be able to fight. I've got a broken hip. My tongue's bit off. He lost his rifle hours ago.
Right.
But if I can just keep crawling to a cave and just hide in a cave until I'm found, hopefully, or until I die in peace versus being decapitated, right? His mindset was, if I'm going to die on my own terms.
Right.
If not, I'm going to survive. My dad's mindset was, my son needs treatment. I can't afford to buy the lice treatment, so I have to get resourceful. He got resourceful by siphoning out gasoline from a parked car, and my mom washed my hair with gasoline because, well, it was free. Because they stole gas from a parked car to wash my hair when they didn't have resources. So in that moment, I realized that you could either have this mindset of, okay, I don't have the resources, so I'm gonna give up.
Sure.
Or you have to have the mindset of, I'm gonna get resourceful. Edwin talks about how because he had a big goal set to buy his mom a house, when everyone else who was selling stuff door to door would give up at 8 o'clock, he said, I need to make 6 sales a day. And I'm gonna keep knocking on doors. And until he made that 6th sale at 10:45 at night, he got resourceful and just kept going where the resources stopped. Most people will stop as soon as they run out of resources. I say, be relentless, be resilient, be resourceful when you don't have the resources, and you will have this warrior's mindset. And I learned that from my dad when I was a little kid, and it served me so well as I built my empire.
So obviously you learned that at a young age, and it's obviously just kept building and building and building. So, you know, you touched on something that's important, right? Having that parent or that someone, that mentor helping you create your identity, right? And so in our industry, obviously we all have parents, we all have people, but not everyone has that mentor, right? Not everyone has that capability of having or understanding someone like that. So, I mean, in today's society, we have YouTube, we have so many social media outlets. Obviously, Edwin, for us at Skyline, has been one of our biggest mentors. But how important is it for you? You know, you're the mentor of your companies as well.
Sure.
How important is it for you to keep and carry that message to the people that work under you?
Massive. So not only do I mentor my franchisees, right, of our Fit Body Bootcamp franchisees, I have 1,800 coaching clients that I mentor. But I don't stop there. When you think about it, we're a growing business. All of my employees, who I actually call team members, they're not employees, because let me just define an employee. Employee clocks in a little late, clocks out a little early, and does the bare minimum to maintain employment.
Right.
A team member is a group of unified guys and gals who have one outcome, and that is the desire to win.
Love it.
That's what a team is. So I have team members, and I happen to be the team captain.
Yes.
Right? And so I also mentor my team, because if I didn't mentor them, then as my company grew, their ability to grow with my company would vanish, and I'd have to fire them. And that's what happens in many companies. And so I focus on their growth as well. So where mentoring is concerned, people go, well, what about you, Bedros? As leaders, I still sell. I sell to the masses through doing shows like this, from the stage, through my book, from our Empire podcast show. And so I'm still selling just like people going door to door.
Right.
Except I'm going from, you know, device to device, right? Because you can hear me on devices now.
Yes.
But if I don't keep my knife sharp, I'm not going to get good at it. So I have mentors around me. Craig Ballantyne is a mentor. Joel Weldon is a speaking mentor. I literally pay this guy, Joel Weldon, he's got 3,000 paid speaking gigs under his belt. He's in the Speaker Hall of Fame. And every time I speak, I take the footage, send it to him. and he critiques it and says, here's how you can do it better. You need to start off with storytelling. You need to start off by addressing this. You need to address the city that you're in,
wow.
Right? And all those things make me a degree better at what I do. So people go, I think I've made it now, I don't need a mentor. I say the opposite. The higher you go, the more mentors you need around you because you have more to lose.
Wow.
And people who say, well, I can't afford a mentor right now, I call bullshit on that because they need to listen to, like, for example, anyone who's doing sales, especially door to door,
right?
They need to be listening to your show religiously, not just one episode, but one episode over and over again until they've memorized it and then on to the next one. They need to listen to the show, go on Edwin's social media platforms. Yep. If he's got a book out or if there's a book that you recommend.
Not
right?
Yet.
But he will, and read the book. So you could still get mentorship through free podcasts, YouTube videos, books. The difference is, do you have that resilient mindset to go and do it, or are you an excuse maker? And 80% of the time, people are excuse makers. 20% of the people are the ones who are resilient and will go do it.
Wow. A lot of stuff right there, guys. I mean, in our industry, as we were talking before, it's exploding right now, right? The door-to-door industry and the smart home industry. But it also comes back to, it's one of the hardest jobs I think I've ever seen. I've done other jobs before, but any business, when you're doing it yourself or independent, you're 1099, whatever you want to call it, it really takes that mindset like you talked about, but it also takes that resilience like you're also talking about as well. What would be some advice, someone just getting started in any kind of business, right? Our business, and getting just started, the first couple days, haven't had success yet, right? They're still trying to figure it out. All those memories of, failures that they've ever had in their lives starting to creep in, right? People they've talked to starting to creep into their mindset. Like, what would be your advice to them? Someone that's just getting started, what would be your advice to them?
Two things, and these are the only two things they need. One is that success leaves clues. For example, who's been successful in the door-to-door industry? Well, Freddie has, Edwin has. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to go try and recreate the wheel. I'm going to go to Freddie and Edwin and go, hey, success leaves clues. You make good money. You make good money. Teach me. What are the clues that I need? And then number two is trust the process. So if you go, these are the things you need to do. You need to knock on 100 doors to make your 6 sales a day. Then I need to turn off my what if mind, because the human brain has the emotional part of the brain that says, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? What if Freddie's wrong? What if Edwin doesn't understand the city that I live in, or the economy that I'm in, or all the what ifs. Then there's a logical part of the mind that says, okay, I trust you, you know what you're talking about. So the logical mind is like, yeah, okay, success leaves clues. But as soon as I'm knocking on doors and pounding the pavement, the what if mind kicks in. You got to shut down the what if mind and trust the process. If success leaves clues and I've got the information from 2 successful people, I just need to trust the process and go knock on 100 doors and then realize that, man, it does work. And so whether it's the what if mind, or what if it's the family, the naysayers who go, what are you doing knocking on doors? That's like selling insurance. That's so bad. Aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? I could imagine all those things being said. You just keep having to shut that down and go, success left clues. I'm trusting the process, and you will get the outcome. Because if we buy a box of cake, like cake batter, Freddie, and we pull up the kitchen here and
fire up the grill.
We literally have a grill here in my studio, and we start baking this cake. But we do one thing different. We replace the flour with sand. Oof. We're probably not going to have cake, right?
No.
But if we follow the instructions on the box and we use every ingredient like we're supposed to, the outcome is going to be a delicious cake.
Right.
So success leaves clues. Trust the process, and you'll have the outcome.
Love it. That's so much right there. I mean, so I've seen in our industry, in our company, and other companies, where they start off real strong, right? They're doing on fire, and all of a sudden there's a slump. And it takes so much to get them back out of that slump. Like, what do you really, like, in your opinion, right? You've probably seen in other businesses as well, since you coach a lot. Like, what is it that you see when someone's on fire and then all of a sudden it just evaporates? Like, what do you think really goes on, and what would be your advice to that?
Good question. If you really look, it's not a this and then that. It's not they're on fire and then it evaporates. It does look like that, but there's a bit of a curve. And if you can catch them on the curve, and the curve is complacency, right? We get complacent, we get cocky. We start going, oh, I'm going to knock on the door, they're going to say this. Oh shit, they didn't say that. They gave me that objection, I wasn't ready for it.
Right.
Before you know it, again and again and again, you get sloppier and sloppier, and before you know it, you're now in a funk. And soon you start knocking on doors, now you're expecting the objections instead of expecting a sale.
Right.
That's complacency. Every day you got to sharpen your sword. Every day you got to sharpen your sword. And so the way I look at it is, before I go on stage, I've already rehearsed my talk 14 times.
Wow.
Doesn't matter if it's a small workshop I'm doing for my own team here, or if I'm speaking to 1,000 people from stage, and it's the talks that I've done before. I will repeat it to myself 14 times between my flight, my hotel stay, and showing up on stage the next morning. Because even though it's the same presentation I've done, the audience is different. There might be plumbers, they might be door-to-door sales reps, they might be whoever, thought leaders, right?
Right.
There's gonna be a little tweak that has to connect with them. And so if I don't rehearse it 14 times, then the first time I'm doing it up there, I'm probably gonna screw up, and then I'm gonna get complacent, right?
Got it.
And so you gotta keep sharpening the sword, and if you do, it'll always be up, up, up. Are we gonna have little dips? Yeah, sure. Are there gonna be like 10 doors that we knock on where 10 people in a row tell us to go F off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that the 11th one is the same. That doesn't mean you just found a new pattern. That just means you hit a glitch.
Right.
You know, we hit a glitch every time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I love what you said, because we've seen it, like I was telling you, and most of the time, to your point, is I always explain it similar, where if their work ethic is up here in the beginning, because their talent's still down here, once their talent meets their work ethic, usually the work ethic goes down.
Yes.
And they're so talented, they're like, oh, I used to do this in 2 hours, but it's a bad day, and so it has to take you 4 hours that day, right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to spend the 6 hours or the 8 hours, because now they got complacent.
Yes.
Right? So to your point, I mean, that's exactly what happened. So I'm glad we're on the same level there, right there.
That we are.
It's on any business, right? It's on sales.
It doesn't matter if you're selling franchises or you're going door to door selling alarm systems or smart homes.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing. So one of the last questions I want to ask you is this thing about discipline.
Yeah.
Right? So in discipline, you know, in sales discipline, how important is it for someone to have discipline in their routine and to have, you know, to consistently produce day in and day out?
Discipline is freedom, discipline is outcome, period. What I mean by that is people go, well, listen, I want more freedom in my life, so I'm not gonna schedule shit. If you don't schedule stuff in your day, then stuff is gonna come up, bills and unexpected, you know, my car's leaking, oh man, I gotta rotate the tires. But if you schedule the oil change, if you schedule the car tire rotation, if you schedule your learning, you can also schedule in your, like in my case, I like to surf. I literally schedule in my surfing. I know it doesn't sound cool, because you would think that, oh, you just grab your surfboard, throw it in the back of the truck and go to the beach because it's a good wave day. Guess what? I schedule my surfing, and sometimes it's not a good wave day. And when it's not and it's flat like a lake, I just paddle. But you know what? I'm in the water, I'm having a good time.
Right.
And so the point is, one, discipline is freedom, and two, discipline is outcome. When you are disciplined in your routine of studying your craft, whether it's sales or persuasion or building something, you're only going to be better at creating the outcome. The people who are disciplined in their studies have a higher chance of creating the outcome consistently than the people who kind of wing it, right?
Yep.
They're not disciplined, so they get out of bed, they haven't had water yet, their body's dehydrated, which means their brain isn't working right. They hope that they can have some coffee. Now they drink some coffee, they're more dehydrated. They knock on their first door, they screw up on their pitch or their introduction, and the door gets slammed in their face. Guess what? You're not disciplined. If you were disciplined, you would have set your alarm the night before. Right. You would have kept a promise to yourself and not hit the fucking snooze button. By the way, can we cuss on this show?
Go edit it.
Okay. and you sorry, you wouldn't hit the darn snooze button. You would wake up when you're supposed to, an hour before, do your studying, drink your water, have your high protein meal, and then go out there with the intention of creating the outcome. That's the difference between the undisciplined and the disciplined.
Yeah, because I think to your point, you know, in any sales job that's 1099, a lot of people, what they do is they, for some reason, confuse that with, oh, it's a hobby all of a sudden, right? My job is a hobby. It's not necessarily a job anymore. When they were working at, you know, Wendy's or wherever, they were so focused on flipping burgers and making sure they weren't on their phones or whatnot. But then when they go into an industry where that can make them 10 times the income, all of a sudden they're like, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, they don't treat it the same.
No, they don't. And I see them, dude, because look, I live in a really nice neighborhood out here, and we're the kind of home that we will buy whatever is being sold to us if what's being sold to us is sold properly. Like the best salespeople, I believe, are buyers. I'm a pretty darn good salesperson, and I buy everything. But when I see a dude going from one mansion to the next mansion, screen sucking, I'm not going to open the door, and if I do, I'm going to be condescending to you because you're not even making eye contact with my neighbors, man. You're not even looking at my driveway, my beautiful 65-yard driveway as you're walking down it.
65.
You're not, yeah, 65.
65.
Right. The point of this is, if you're screen sucking, you're not valuing my time and my property. I'm not going to value your sales pitch. And so enough people will turn these people away and think, I can't figure out why. Dude, unless you're listening to some kind of sales presentation on there, you shouldn't have your phone in your hand if you're going door to door.
You should have done that before, though, right?
Right.
You should have done that
right.
before.
Again, goes back to discipline.
Right. And so I think a lot of times, you know, and you know, door-to-door industry, any door-to-door industry, especially in the smart home industry, we've seen these roller coasters, and most of the time it's because of discipline. And I think a lot of times we, as sales reps, we forget that could be the next big thing, or it is the next big thing for us, and we have to treat it with the respect that we really need, because if we put it and invest the time that we really want, well, the fruits are going to be 10 times. I mean, we obviously have Edwin as a huge success story, but we have others as managers, as regionals that have huge amount of success as well today in this age. And so I think it's very important. I mean, you dropped so much knowledge on us. I do appreciate your time. Anything else you wanted to mention? I mean, obviously with what we've talked about already, any word of advice for anyone that, you know, is considering any kind of job in this?
Yeah. I'll tell you this, man. The best word of advice I can give anyone who's in your industry of door-to-door sales is to always find a mentor. There's a mentor somewhere in your industry who's willing to pay it forward, or has a book, or has a podcast in your guys' case. And so if they believe that they don't have the resources, they're full of it. The truth is they just haven't looked hard enough to find that resource.
Love it. Bedros, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Skyline Nation. We'll see you next time.